about the physical and mental health of people, especially students, during pandemic. Fear, worry, and stress are normal responses which come into the minds of people in the context of COVID-19. Added to the fear and stress, people compelled to stay at home and change their daily routines in the past 6 months. As all the educational institutions are shut down for long, students of different ages are the worst sufferers who are in both physical and mental stress. The final examinations of UG and PG courses had been postponed for more than 6 months all over the country. The results of class 10 and class 12 examinations came out without completion of all the papers. Long absence of playground and outdoor activities deteriorated the normal health condition of all students. With serious pressure of career planning in this situation, they are burdened with physical and mental health problems. How to tackle with this problem, we will hear from our eminent speakers. Now over to Professor Mahila Basu to carry on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, madam. We now start the main session of the webinar, the technical session. I request Sri Dibyendu Das, faculty, Department of Physical Education, Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya, to please carry on. Please start the technical session, Dibyendu.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am? Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a very good morning and welcome to all. At the very first, I would like to thank to our respected principal madam, Dr. Bidisha Ghosdostidar, Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya, and our IQAC coordinator, Professor Mahila Basu, for giving me the opportunity to moderate the first technical session of this today's webinar. I also like to thank Professor Rima Kanjilal ma'am, convener of the webinar subcommittee, Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Thank you all. Today is a very special day for the Department of Physical Education because of two different reasons. First of all, this is the first time when both the departments, physical education and education, jointly organize a state level webinar on mental and physical well-being of learners during pandemic situation. On behalf of the Department of Physical Education, I would like to thank the entire Department of Education for supporting us, helping us and guiding us and making this webinar happen. Now, the second point is this year marks the centenary year of physical education in India. In 1920, the first physical education college, YMCA, was established in India. So, physical education emerged 100 years ago in India, and now 100 years later, it seems to a very relevant topic and question why we need physical and mental well-being in this terrible, horrifying situation. We have two eminent speakers, Dr. Asim Kumar Bose, former principal of Postgraduate Government Institute for Physical Education, Banipur, and Dr. Dibyendu Bhattacharya, Department of Education, University of Kolkata, among us. Let me introduce you our first honorable speaker, Dr. Asim Kumar Bose. He's a renowned physical educationist, a helpful teacher, and a technically sound coach. He did his master in sociology from Jivaji University, Gwalior, along with master and PhD in physical education from the Said University. He also obtained NIS coaching diploma in athletics from Netaji Subhash National Institute of Sports, Patiala. Dr. Asim Kumar Bose has a long teaching experiences over more than 35 years. He worked as a professor of at Government College of Education, Banipur, also acted as an officer in charge at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar School of Sports, Banipur. Under his guidance and observation, so many athletes had participated in state and national level of competition. Dr. Bose was the acted principal of Postgraduate Government Institute for Physical Education from 2003 to 2005 and was the principal of the same institute from 2006 to 2016. After retirement, he joined ICFI University, Tripura, Faculty of Physical Education and Yoga. I like to welcome you, sir, and request you to kindly deliver your valuable speech for this webinar. Over to you, sir. Hello. 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 Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but sir, you are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Asim, sir, can you hear me? Hello. Asim, sir. I think something is going wrong, ma'am.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
There may be a network problem. Have patience. Sir is
Okay.
here.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sharing, but yeah.
Please help him.
Is that okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
Can you see the
Yes,
slides
sir.
now?
Yes, sir.
You can see the slides. Okay.
No, sir.
Is that now?
Yes,
No,
sir. It is visible. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you. Okay. First of all, I just wish everybody a very good morning, and particularly wish to give thanks to Principal Madam Dr. Bidisha Ghosh-Dosidar, who has been kind enough to give me this opportunity to say something in regard to the mental and physical well-being of the learners. I'm also thankful to the IQAC coordinator, Professor Mohammad Basu, and Professor Rima Kanjilal, convener of webinar subcommittee. To all my teachers, their students, listeners, and all the staff of the Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya. I am fortunate enough to work say about 34 years plus, and worked in 2 institutions in Banipur, and then I also worked as the officer in charge and then principal of Physical Education College and B.R. Ambedkar Sports School. Anyway, let us go to the directly to our topic, that is the mental and physical well-being of learner during pandemic situation. Let us come to the first key words regarding mental well-being. Madam, can I use a bilingual language also? Because my students are there, no? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you may. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Of course you can.
Okay. So whatever the pertinent, whenever I come to the pertinent topic, I'll definitely use Bengali language for my students also. And this is in regard to the mental well-being. The very key word is state of well-being, in which every individual realizes his or her potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, that is which through which we are prevailing now, and can work productively and fruitfully. And also we are able to make contribution to her or his community. This is the actual definition that has come from the Wikipedia. And it is all about the thoughts and feelings, how you cope with the ups and downs of everyday's life. Whenever we are under stress, there are definitely lots of ups and downs, lot of problems we are facing, lot of difficulties we are facing. And it's not the same thing as mental health, although those two can influence each other, but mental health is something. When you care about yourself, you care for yourself. That means you concentrate on your own self. You love yourself and don't hate yourself. You look after your own physical health. You eat well, sleep well, exercise, and enjoy yourself. That gives a enjoyable mental health. And regard to physical well-being, that includes the lifestyle behavior, choices. We have a lot of choices in our life to maintain a good health and preventable all the diseases, conditions that come on our way, and to live in balanced state of mind, body, and soul. So these three components of individual self, and that actually make the individual a very healthy one. Healthy, when we say about the healthy one, the physical health comes into the context. There are many components of physical health. So that is called strength, flexibility, agility, endurance, balance, speed, balance, and coordination. These all are the components, the basic components that comprises the physical health. And the second one is the nutrition and diet. That is the indicating factors. That includes nutrients intake, whether micro or macronutrients. Then there are protein, fat, carbohydrate, fluids, and all. There are also indications of alcohol and drugs. And we know the effect of alcohol and drugs on the human health. That includes the abstinence from or reduced consumption of these substances. We have to go away from this sort of things. And there are medical self-care. Whenever we are ill, we have to take the medical guidance, we have to take the self-care, whatever it may be. And the final is the rest and sleep. This is a very, very crucial thing at this point. Rest and sleep. Pandemic. According to whose trusted source, this is said that worldwide spread of a new disease becomes a pandemic one. So when a new disease first comes, so we, most of us, we do not have that natural immunity to fight against that. So this may cause some sudden stresses, sometimes rapid or spread the diseases between the people across the community around the world. So without a natural immunity to fight off an illness, many people can become sick, that is go under the stress, becomes panic as it spreads further. World Health Organization has declared the COVID-19 as pandemic, and a global health emergency has been declared. So every corner of the world, people of every corner of the world are suffering on COVID-19. So this has rapidly swept across the world and causing fear, panic, anxiety among people of all walks of life, whether a laborer or a rich man, whatever. There is no distinction. So restricted movement made people to confine at home, not to go out of home, not to go out of the housing complex. And consecutive lockdown, confinement zones, strict administrative action, police vigilance, government order to maintain law and order, etc. have been imposed. So these all have become a biggest challenge of our lifetime that we never seen. Unprecedented threat for human race. Even the Adivasi or the premier, the people of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the ancient peoples, they are also suffering with this. So attack of virus frightened us, and we are waiting with a pale face. What is next? How long this will continue? So we have been frightened, not only we, the students community also. The world has started a new journey, so everybody has to struggle. So it's a new struggle for existence, that concern about the health of every individual. Let us come to the background of the study. Like economy, education and health are also adversely battling with the lockdown. আমরা এটা বুঝতে পারছি যে আমাদের সামগ্রিকভাবে যে আর্থিক অবস্থাটা হয়েছে, আর্থিক স্থিতিটা আছে, সেটার সাথে শিক্ষা এবং স্বাস্থ্য সেটা কিন্তু অঙ্গাঙ্গিভাবে জড়িত, এবং এই তিনটে বিষয় কিন্তু এই লকডাউনের সময় আঘাতপ্রাপ্ত হচ্ছে। The disruption has come in the last quarter of the academic calendar, এবং এর ফলে যেটা দাঁড়াচ্ছে সেটা হচ্ছে যে পোস্টপোনমেন্ট অফ এক্সামিনেশন। আমাদের অনেক জায়গায় বিভিন্ন পরীক্ষার স্তরে কম্পিটিটিভ এক্সাম, 10 ক্লাস 12 ক্লাসের এক্সামিনেশন, সিলেবাই কাটেলড হয়েছে। পশ্চিমের দেশগুলোতে এক্সপ্লোরেশন অফ অনলাইন এক্সামিনেশন শুরু হয়ে গেছে। এই সমস্তগুলো কিন্তু এই কোভিড-19 এর একটা ফল, যেটা সর্বত্রই কিন্তু একটু একটু করে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি। The great impact on young children, on their education, psychosocial and physical health. আমি এই ব্যাপারটার বিষয়ে একটু পরের দিকেও আসবো, যদিও আমি এখানে শুরুতে একটু বলেও দিই। The young children যারা আছে, ছোট ছোট শিশুরা যারা স্কুলে যায়, যারা মাধ্যমিক স্ট্যান্ডার্ডে যাচ্ছে, তাদেরও কিন্তু একটা সাইকোসোশ্যাল এবং ফিজিক্যাল হেলথের উপর একটা ইম্প্যাক্ট বা একটা এর মধ্যে একটা প্রভাব হচ্ছে, যেটা যে তাদেরও কিন্তু মাঝে মাঝে ঘুম থেকে উঠে যাচ্ছে, ঘুম কম হচ্ছে, ক্ষুধা মন্দতা হচ্ছে, এবং খেতে পারছে না। শারীরিক দিক থেকে তারা বাইরে বেরোতে পারছে না, ফলে খেলাধুলাও করতে পারছে না। সো দিস হ্যাজ এ গ্রেট ইম্প্যাক্ট অন দেয়ার সোশ্যাল হেলথ অ্যাজ ওয়েল অ্যাজ ফিজিক্যাল হেলথ অলসো। And then closure of educational institution, সমস্ত ইনস্টিটিউশন বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে, ইউনিভার্সিটি, কলেজ, স্কুল সব বন্ধ, সব। তার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আমরা দেখেছি পরিযায়ী শ্রমিক আসছে বাইরে থেকে, সারাটা রাস্তা ধরে ধরে হাঁটছে, বিভিন্ন প্রান্ত থেকে তাদের গ্রামে ফিরে যেতে চাইছে। ফিরে এসছে, কিন্তু তাদের কোনো থাকার জায়গা নেই, কোনো কোনো ক্ষেত্রে তাদের চাকরি নেই, কাজ নেই। যখন কাজ নেই তখন তাদের আর্থিক অবস্থার কিন্তু একটা তলানিতে এসে পড়েছে। আর্থসামাজিক যে অবস্থাটা আছে, যেটাকে আমরা সোশিও ইকোনমিক বলি। সো দেয়ার হ্যাজ বিন এ গ্যাপ বিটুইন লার্নার্স, সেটাই কিন্তু এই সোশিও ইকোনমিক গ্যাপ বিটুইন লার্নার্স উইল ইনক্রিজ। অর্থাৎ যারা হ্যাভ এবং হ্যাভ নটস, তাদের বাড়িতে যে সমস্ত শিক্ষার্থীরা রয়েছে তাদের মধ্যে কিন্তু একটা দূরত্ব সৃষ্টি হচ্ছে। যেমন ধরা যায়, যদি আমরা থার্ড ওয়ার্ল্ড কান্ট্রিজের দিকে চলে যাই, আমরা যদি আফ্রিকার দিকে যাই, আমরা ল্যাটিন আমেরিকা এবং বাংলাদেশের দিকে যাই, বা যে সমস্ত আন্ডার ডেভেলপ কান্ট্রিজ গুলো রয়েছে, ডেভেলপিং কান্ট্রিজের মধ্যেও হয়েছে, সেখানে দেখা যাচ্ছে যে বাবা মায়ের কাজ নেই, স্বাভাবিকভাবে সেই ছেলেটা বা মেয়েটা সে কিন্তু আর পড়াশোনা করছে না। মানে আমরা এটা জানি যে একটা যখন একটা ক্রাইসিস তৈরি হয়, সেই ক্রাইসিসটা ইকোনমিক ক্রাইসিস হলে কিন্তু সর্বত্রই কিন্তু কার্ভটা ফ্ল্যাট হতে শুরু হয়, কিছুই হয় না, কেউ কোথাও নেই, জমি জায়গা সমস্ত কিছুর জায়গা, সবাই কিন্তু একটা জায়গায় চুপচাপ হতাশাগ্রস্ত হয়ে বসে থাকে। সো দিস হ্যাজ ক্রিয়েটেড মোর চাইল্ড লেবার। ফলে সেই শিশুটিকে, সেই ছাত্রটিকে বা ছাত্রীটিকে তাকে বাইরে বেরোতে হচ্ছে, এর বাড়িতে কাজ করতে হচ্ছে, ওই দোকানে বা ওইখানে কিছু একটা কাজ করতে হচ্ছে টু আর্ন দ্য লিভলিহুড। ওয়ার্ল্ড ওয়াইড এইটা কিন্তু একটা বিশাল একটা জায়গা নিয়েছে, যেখানে কিন্তু এইরকম WHO বলছে যে এইরকম সংখ্যাটা কিন্তু অনেকটা বাড়ছে। সো হোম লার্নিং, বাড়িতে বসে যে শেখাটা হয়, দ্যাট বিকামস মোর স্ট্রেসফুল, আরো কষ্টদায়ক হয়ে পড়ছে মানসিক দিক থেকে, ডিউ টু দ্য ক্রাইসিস অফ ফুড অ্যান্ড ইকোনমি। ঘরে যদি খাবার না থাকে, টাকা পয়সা না থাকে, ইকোনমিক স্টেবিলিটি যদি হারিয়ে যায়, তাহলে বাড়িতে বসেও কিন্তু পড়াশোনাটা আর করা যাচ্ছে না। সো এডুকেশন নলেজ কিন্তু একটা বাধাপ্রাপ্ত হচ্ছে। So therefore disruption of learning due to death of relatives, এইখানেও যদি একটা আমরা দেখি, বহু বাড়িতে, সারা বিশ্বের কথা ধরতে হবে আমাদের, কারণ আমরা যদি আমার পাড়ার কথা বা আমার জায়গার কথা ধরি তাহলে হবে না ঠিক। বহু বাড়িতে কিন্তু তাদের রিলেটিভরা মারা গেছে, খুব আপনজনেরা চলে গেছেন বিকজ অফ কোভিড। জাস্ট উই হ্যাভ টু থিঙ্ক অ্যাবাউট দিস, যে সেখানে সেই বাড়ির ছেলেমেয়েরা যারা স্কুলে কলেজে যাচ্ছে, তাদের মনের মধ্যে কিরকম একটা ভয় বাসা বেঁধেছে, একটা গ্রোয়িং ফিয়ার একটা প্যানিক যে আমাদের কি হবে, will we struggle or will we leave, আমরা কি লড়াই করতে পারবো, will we be able, লড়াই করতে পারবো কি পারবো না, অথবা আমাদের পড়াশোনা কি হবে, ভবিষ্যৎ কি হবে, সম্পূর্ণ কিন্তু একটা অনিশ্চিত অবস্থার মধ্যে চলে গেছে। A good number of students are having without or limited device of internet access. কথাটা হচ্ছে এই যে ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড অফ দিস ওয়ার্ডস আর টু বি সেড ইন দিস রেসপেক্ট, যেটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, যেটা শুনতে পাচ্ছি, যেটা বোধের মধ্যেও আছে আমাদের, যে ভার্চুয়াল ক্লাস, ভার্চুয়াল লার্নিং শুরু হয়েছে। এখন যদি আমরা মেন্টাল অ্যান্ড ফিজিক্যাল ওয়েলবিং অফ দ্য লার্নার্স এর কথাটা ভাবি, সেখানে কিন্তু এটা একটা ফ্যাক্টর বলে মনে হয়েছে আমার, এই জন্য যে সবার কাছে কিন্তু অ্যান্ড্রয়েড মোবাইলস নেই, বা সবার কাছে কিন্তু ডেস্কটপ অথবা ল্যাপটপ নেই। প্রত্যন্ত গ্রামের কথাই ধরা যাক, এটা হচ্ছে ডিভাইস। এবং তার সাথে
হ্যালো স্যার, স্যার আপনি মিউট হয়ে গেছেন স্যার। হ্যালো, শোনা যাচ্ছে স্যার? স্যার শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
Hello, sir. You have been muted by someone. Please unmute yourself, sir. Hello. 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 Debojyoti, can you call sir?
Yes ma'am.
Please call him.
Yes ma'am.
হ্যালো হ্যালো হ্যালো।
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible. Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
ওকে ওকে। Okay, just I'm bringing the slide back. Hello.
Presentation is not properly visible. Please help him.
Yeah,
Meeting.
the slide is not coming.
Sir, you have to just click on your presentation. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is visible. No, sir. Sir, you have just back to your presentation, sir. Yes, sir.
It's not visible.
Yes, sir. It is okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's okay, no?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So
Sorry, sir.
how long I was not with you? How long? Okay, I was going through the background of this, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Hand, yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll come from that.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, welcome. Mm. Okay, we understand the closure of educational institutions. So loss of job of many parents have gone. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
sir.
So socioeconomic gap between the learners, I said, that has increased. Home learning becomes a stressful for the students, and disruption of the learning due to death of relatives. I was talking about this. Many of the students have lost their relatives, close ones in the family. Therefore, a fear has grown up within themselves that how long this struggle will go on and what will be the next, whether will we be alive, whether will we be able to see our distant relatives, and so many things that has come on the way. So a good number of students uh, are having without unlimited devices. I said they may not be having the desktop or even the laptop or even the internet access. So sometimes it may so happen এরকম হতে পারে যে বৃষ্টির সময়তে তারা হয়তো ঘরের মধ্যে আছে, তাদের ওখানে ইন্টারনেট অ্যাক্সেস হচ্ছে না, হতেই পারে। এমন হতে পারে যে তারা রাস্তায় নেমে আসছে। হ্যালো হ্যালো
Yes, sir, you're audible.
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শোনা যাচ্ছে স্যার।
বৃষ্টির সময় এমন হতে পারে তারা ঘরের মধ্যে ইন্টারনেট কানেকশনটা পাচ্ছে না। সো তার কাছে যদি অ্যান্ড্রয়েড ফোন থাকে, তাকে কোনো গাছের তলায় অথবা কোনো একটা বাড়ির ছাদের তলায় আসতে হচ্ছে। এমনও হতে পারে যে তাকে লাইট পোস্টের তলায় দাঁড়িয়ে 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 তাকে শুনতে হচ্ছে, ক্লাসরুম ডিভাইসেস এগুলো করতে হচ্ছে। সো these আর দ্য প্রবলেমস দ্যাট আর গ্রোয়িং প্রবলেমস। স্বাভাবিকভাবে আমরা যারা শহরের প্রান্তে রয়েছি, যারা আমরা শহরে থাকি, সিটিতে থাকি, নগরে থাকি, আমাদের কাছে হয়তো একটা অ্যাক্সেস অফ হয়ে গেলে আর একটা হয়তো ওয়াইফাই অ্যাক্সেসের মধ্যে ঢুকতে পারছি, কিন্তু টু দ্য ডিস্টেন্স লার্নার দিস হ্যাজ বিকাম এ প্রবলেম ফর ইউটিলাইজিং দ্য সার্ভিসেস অফ ই-লার্নিং। Hard challenges to the disabled students, because we have to mention this. Disabled students, they are having many challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges, and multiple challenges they face. And there are also students who are also utilizing or wish to utilize this sort of devices. Now what is happening, the parents with the very low or marginal income, they will not be able to afford to give these services to these students. যাদের পারিবারিক আয়ের ক্ষমতা সীমিত অথবা খুবই কম, তারা কিন্তু এই ডিসেবল চিলড্রেনদের ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু অপারগ হয়ে যান, পারেন না, দিতে পারেন না তাদের এই সুবিধাটুকু। Therefore everywhere learning getting hindrances. What about the teachers? They are also experiencing the physical and mental challenges, resulting period of imprisonment. If we say like that, because they cannot go to the department, they cannot go to the colleges, and they are really, how they will go? Because the public transportation system has been stopped, considering that there may be spread of COVID. So these are the problems that the students at large and the teachers are also facing, causing a great stress to them. And what is that stress? This can cause many different symptoms. You see, they may feel physically or mentally, they becomes upset. Their behavior also reflects that they are under stressed. And it is not always easy to recognize, identify that when it is coming and what is the reason behind that, and how do they feel, or they also express their own behavior in different manner. So these stressful conditions also have certain symptoms. There are physical symptoms, continuous headache or dizziness, muscle tension, muscle pain, bodily pain, stomach problem, chest pain. And then there are mental symptoms also. Difficulty in concentrating, they cannot study. Struggling to make decision, what will be there, I do not know, maybe this, may not be, possibly, like that. So taking solid decision, or the loss of confidence, feeling overwhelmed. Oh, okay, it's okay. That means some behavioral problem comes up. Constantly worrying. Oh no, I do not know what will happen. No, you can do it. No, I am feared. I am afraid. Being forgetful. Everything they're forgetting. Nothing they can keep in their mind. So a change in behavior always seen. Irritable and snappy. অনেক ঘুমাচ্ছে, অনেক খেয়ে ফেলছে, খাওয়া দাওয়া করছে, বেশি করে খাচ্ছে, লোকের সঙ্গে দেখা করতে চাইছে না, and sometimes drinking and smoking. This has become the problem. And what are the changes? Challenges to the learner, as because they are confined at home. I said they are under stress, they become stressed. কারণ তারা বাইরে বেরোতে পারতো, বাইরে ঘুরতে পারতো, বন্ধুদের সাথে দেখা করতে পারতো, প্লে ফিল্ডে যেত, জিমে যেত, নাটক করতো, ছবি আঁকতো, টিউশন পড়তে যেত, তাদের মুভমেন্ট আউটডোর বেশি ছিল, এবং they used to come back home in time and have their food and study or doing something else. This home confinement stands as a challenge to the learner. So they are restricted in going out of door. They'll have to sit in the room, sit in the home, and attend the virtual learning. But in relation to that, I just want to mention another thing, that many parents, say the daily laborer or the small scale, the parents who used to work in a small scale industries, their job is not secured. How they can manage to give a device through which his or her students can study? So they refuse. No, you need not to do that. So ছেলেটা কি করে, ও গিয়ে মাছ ধরতে চলে যায়, মাছটা ধরে নিয়ে এলো, একটু বাজারে যদি বিক্রি করতে পারে, like that. So no exercise, no play, no recreation. You said, see. So the reserve energy that is to be utilized. How this energy comes? Through diet, an uncontrolled diet. They are getting obese in some students, or the students of the city-centered schools. They don't go to school, but they stay in the home, and there's always getting chips and other things. Watching TV, playing virtual game. What is to be done? Because the time has to be utilized. This way they will do it. So they have been debarred from social gathering. No birthday party, kono জন্মদিনের অনুষ্ঠান না, কোনো কিছুই না, বন্ধুদের সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ হচ্ছে না, peer contract is missing. And at the down level, where the economic crisis is critical, or it is much more, the domestic violence occurs at home. যুদ্ধ হচ্ছে স্বামী স্ত্রীর মধ্যে, স্টুডেন্ট দেখছে। So the task to be performed, কি করতে হবে? Continuously you have to check and monitor the progress of mine. আমি কি চাইছি, আমি as a student আমি কি চাইছি, what is my ultimate work, principal workটা কি আমার? To study and to study. I have to study. So whatever I study, I have to plan, total study plan I must have. এবং সেটা একটা অ্যাডভাইস দেবে কেউ না কেউ, কারোর থেকে যেন সেই অ্যাডভাইসটা আসে, how he or she will plan. I have to utilize the online library facilities by paying something, but everybody cannot afford it. I have to get my essential commodity from the market, but I cannot go out. আমি বাইরে বেরোতে পারছি না, তো আমাকে ডিফারেন্ট মোড ব্যবহার করতে হবে, অনলাইন আমাকে মার্কেটিং করতে হবে। মেডিসিন দরকার আছে, বাড়িতে এল্ডারলি পিপল আছে, তাদের ওষুধ দরকার আছে, এবং সেটার জন্য আমাকে টেলিমেডিসিনের ব্যবস্থা করতে হবে, ভার্চুয়াল কনসাল্ট করতে হবে ডক্টরের সাথে, যে তার হেলথ অবস্থা এরকম আছে। এবং what we need to do, student should be in touch with their friends, with their family, relatives, and the people around their house, the neighbors, either by phone, message, video call, or using the social media. So everybody has to be in contact, and this will strengthen the social health much more. And we have to think on this matter that if we develop our social health, definitely the mental health will also improve. Bhalo lagbe amar. So I must share my worries, আমার দুঃখ যন্ত্রণাগুলো আমাকে আমার শেয়ার করতে হবে অন্যদের সঙ্গে, আমার বন্ধুদের সঙ্গে, or with my parents. And with that, I must also take care of my body. That means I must do some movement of our body parts. So it is said that stay on top of difficulty feeling. Top of difficult feeling. Somebody is suffering or recently suffering with the COVID-19. Say day 1 or 2 or 3 have been passed. So it is a difficult period for that people or for your friends. Maybe he is staying just in your locality. So before it gets outbreak, you have to concern about the coronavirus outbreak. And all the precautionary measures you have to follow as per the government directives, and you must also take care of health. This is not only for you, it is for everybody. You have to focus on the things that you can control, such as how you act, who you speak to, and where you get the information from. So whenever the friend or the neighbor is in trouble, we must know, we should do something, or we should speak out something where the information has to given, and how the next information has to be sought from that place. So যে খবরটা আমরা পাচ্ছি সেটা কোথায় দিতে হবে, হেলথ ডিপার্টমেন্ট, মিউনিসিপ্যালিটি, হাসপাতাল, or the local authority, and from there also we have to take the feedback and give the information to the sufferer. So do not stay glued to the news. সব সময় বাইরে যত নিউজ আসছে, এতজন আজকে মারা গেছে, কালকে এতজন সাফার করেছে, পরশুদিন এতজন সারা বিশ্বে হয়েছে, এবার বেড়েছে, কার বাড়তে শুরু করেছে, কার অনেক উপরে উঠছে, এবার রাইজিং করছে. So avoid that. Limit the time you spend watching television. বন্ধ করে দিতে হবে, দেখার দরকার নেই. রিডিং or listening to coverage of the outbreak. বড় বড় খবর দিচ্ছে, ফ্রন্ট পেজ নিউজ হচ্ছে, সেকেন্ড পেজ নিউজ হচ্ছে. Do not go through that. Don't go in detail. And including on social media, think about turning off breaking news. সে সমস্ত বন্ধ করে দাও. যত অ্যালার্ট আসে, ফোনে অ্যালার্ট আসে, যা কিছু আসছে, এই সমস্তগুলো আমাদের একটা নেগেটিভ ইনফরমেশন দেবে, এবং স্বাভাবিকভাবে আমরা আরো বেশি ক্লান্ত হয়ে পড়বো, মানসিক দিক থেকে ভারাক্রান্ত হয়ে পড়বো. সো এনজয় থিংস ইউ লাইক. যেটা তোমার ভালো লাগে তুমি সেটা করো. ইউ ডান্স ইন ইউর হোম, ইউ পেইন্ট, গো ফর গার্ডেনিং, আবৃত্তি করো. টেক টাইম টু রিল্যাক্স. Find out some time to relax for yoga, meditation, and like. Use the roof of your home. So all the members of your family go together on the roof of your home, of your house, sit together, make the distances, and perform yoga or meditation together. Do some lying exercise, sitting exercise, so you can relax. Try to have a very good sleep. It is said, কিন্তু আমি বললে তো ঘুম আসবে না, ঘুমটা নিজের মতো করে আসবে. Remember, you are not alone. We are all in this problem. Always we are together, and we are sailing in the same boat. So it is the perfect opportunity to come out of this sedentary lifestyle, অর্থাৎ ঘরে বসে বসে একটা আরামদায়ক জীবনযাত্রার মধ্যে না থেকে আমাকে নিজের দেখাশোনা করতে হবে, নিজের কেয়ার নিতে হবে, and এক্সারসাইজ করতে হবে, so that I develop my physical health and thereby the physical well-being. It is also imperative যে আমার যাতে অপটিমাম ওয়েল-বিইং অফ আওয়ার বডি আমার জন্য থাকে. আমি কখনো বলতে চাইছি না যে আমাকে অলিম্পিকে যাওয়ার জন্য প্রস্তুত হয়ে যেতে হবে। নো, I may start very slowly, do very slow, moderate intensity exercise, so that and maintain that and accept that as a lifelong activity. And thirdly, the exercises are great way to deal with the increasing stress. এটার সাথে আমরা কমব্যাট করতে পারবো স্ট্রেসের সঙ্গে। স্লিপ সাইকেলটাকে আরো বেশি ঘুম আসবে, আমার যদি ইনসোমিনিয়া হয়, আমার যদি দিনের পর দিন যদি অসুবিধা হয়, সেটা কন্ট্রোল করতে পারবো বডি ওয়েট, রিডিউস দ্য রিস্ক অফ হার্ট ডিজিজ, বসে বসে থাকলে যে অবস্থাটা হতে পারে, স্টেবিলাইজিং ব্লাড সুগার অ্যান্ড ইনসুলিন লেভেল। দিস আর দ্য very benefits. These are benefits. These are very benefits. These benefits are very important, particularly if we participate in the daily exercise program. So therefore, some of the time, যে সময়টার মধ্যে আমরা করোনা নিয়ে একটু বেশি চিন্তিত বা একটু ভারাক্রান্ত হয়ে যেতাম, সেই সময়টাই যদি আমরা এক্সারসাইজ করি, তাহলে যতটুকু সময় আমরা করোনা নিয়ে ভাবতাম, তাহলে সেখান থেকে আমরা কিছুটা সময় কিন্তু ডাইভার্ট করে দিতে পারি এক্সারসাইজের দিকে, এবং তার ফলে কি হতে পারে, এই বেনিফিট গুলো কিন্তু আমরা ফিজিক্যাল বেনিফিট, ফিজিওলজিক্যাল বেনিফিটস গুলো পেতে পারি। সো দেয়ারফর আমাকে অ্যালাউ এক্সট্রা টাইম এভরিডে ফর স্ট্রেস রিলিফ। এই এক্সট্রা টাইম আমাকে বের করতে হবে। হ্যাভ এ লং বাথ, মানে একটু ভালো স্নান করে, টেক এ সোশ্যালি ডিস্টেন্স ওয়াক অর জগ। যদি মনে হয় আমার বাড়ির ভেতরে কিছুটা জায়গা আছে, সেখানে আমি জগিং করতে পারি। একটু সামাজিক দূরত্ব বজায় রেখে আমি হাঁটাচলাও করতে পারি। ভোরবেলা বেরিয়ে গেলাম যখন রাস্তাঘাটে কোনো লোকজন নেই। ক্রিয়েট আর্ট, লিসেন মিউজিক, ডু সামথিং দ্যাট ব্রিংস ইউ জয়, অর্থাৎ এ জয়ফুল লাইফ ইউ মাস্ট হ্যাভ। A physical well-being is not only important for one's physical health. Good physical well-being will also benefit students' academic performance. This is the research studies. Research says that physical well-being is not only important for one's physical health. Good physical well-being will also benefit students' academic performance. I just want to repeat, academic performance. This is not the result of the research at this moment of pandemic. This is an established fact. This is an universal fact. As because pandemic is prevailing, people are going for exercise. But when it was not there, it was always envisaged there. You must go for exercise. Do some exercise for your good brain functioning and academic progress. Studies among university students also shown that sleep quality, physical activity, and substances that we use were strong predictors of mental well-being. So whatever food we take, our quality of physical activity, and a good sleep, that is a sleep quality, that is a strong predictors of mental well-being. So our physical well-being is the foundation, is the base for anything else. Thirdly, a systematic review conducted by O'Neill et al. showed that an unhealthy diet is linked to poor mental health. So if we take an unhealthy diet, the diet which is not balanced, where in proportion the carbohydrate, fat, protein, they remain absent. So that will have a direct effect on our mental health. অর্থাৎ পেটে যদি ভালো খিদে না থাকে, ভালো ঘুম হবে না, ভালো চিন্তা শক্তিও আসবে না in the long run. Research has also shown that physical activity can improve mood, reduce stress and anxiety, and help prevent mental health problems. So lot of mental health problems. So some of the indications we have given, but reducing the stress at large and anxiety, and also the other related problems that we face will definitely improve. We can come out of these problems if we regularly participate in physical activity program. So the time spent in nature, focusing on our surroundings, have been shown to have beneficial effect on mood and mental well-being, our mood, whether a feel good mood like that. So I am feeling okay, I am really happy. This happy mood, this has been shown a beneficial effect on our mental well-being. These are some of the reflection of researchers. I am coming to the conclusions. Nothing is finished. Your school, college and university will start as the situation improves. So be imperative, positive. সবকিছুই খুলবে, কোনো চিন্তার ব্যাপার নেই, হয়তো সময় নিচ্ছে। You will experience different modes of study other than classroom setting. আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি যে ভার্চুয়াল লার্নিং শুরু হয়ে গেছে, ভার্চুয়াল টিচিং শুরু হয়ে গেছে। মনে হচ্ছে যেন একটা অভিজ্ঞতা আসছে, নতুন একটা মোড অফ টিচিং হয়তো আসছে, এবং এক্সামিনেশন প্যাটার্ন। রিমেম্বার, নাথিং ক্যান রিপ্লেস টেক্সট বুক। এটা মনে হচ্ছে আমাদের বইকে কখনো আমরা রিপ্লেস করতে পারবো না, ইনস্টেড অফ টেকিং ইনফরমেশন ফ্রম দ্য নেট। সো বুক ইজ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। You are young to take any major decisions. Seek advice to your parents and teachers. So whenever you take any decision, you must consult your parents and teachers, শিক্ষক এবং আমাদের যারা অভিভাবক আছেন তাদের কাছে কিন্তু সব সময় তাদের অ্যাডভাইসটা আমাদের গ্রহণ করতে হবে। Be regular in studies and shake off all negative informations. এটা আমরা আগেও আলোচনা করেছি, রেগুলার থাকতে হবে স্টাডি নিয়ে। Consider you are in the same planet with your friends of other countries. এটা আমরা আগেও বলেছিলাম যে তুমি একা নও, তোমার সঙ্গে কিন্তু আমরা সবাই আছি। Similarly, the students কমিউনিটিকে বলা হচ্ছে যে তুমি কিন্তু শুধু এই গ্রহেই একা নও, এই গ্রহে আরো অনেকেই আছে তোমার মতো বন্ধু বান্ধবরা যারা অন্যান্য দেশে রয়েছে।
হ্যাঁ,
Students across the globe are being tutored via e-learning. এটা আমরা জেনেছি, সারা বিশ্বে ই-লার্নিংটা চালু হয়ে গেছে। অ্যান্ড অনলাইন স্কুল প্রোগ্রাম, স্কুলের যে শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থাটা চলছে শিখন, সেইগুলোও কিন্তু অনলাইনে মোডে চলছে। এখানে আর একটা কথা যেটা আমার ইন্ট্রোডিউস করা দরকার আছে, যে পশ্চিমী দুনিয়াতে কিন্তু ই-লার্নিং বহুদিন আগে থেকে ছিল, আমাদের এখানে কিন্তু সেটাকে গ্রহণ করতে একটু সময় লাগলো। কারণ ব্লেন্ডেড প্যাটার্ন অফ ই-লার্নিং ফিনল্যান্ড থেকে শুরু করে, ইংল্যান্ড থেকে শুরু করে বা জাপানে তাদের অলরেডি তাদের ছিল শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থার মধ্যে। কিন্তু আমরা এখানে কিন্তু যখন দেখলাম যে করোনায় যখন আক্রান্ত হচ্ছে, তখন আমরা গ্রহণ করতে শুরু করলাম যে ওই ই-লার্নিং মোডটাকে কিন্তু আমাদের এখানে শুরু করা যায় কিনা, এবং সেটা দিয়ে ধীরে 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 প্রথমে গ্রহণ করতে অসুবিধা হচ্ছিল, তারপরে আস্তে আস্তে কিন্তু আমরা মনে হচ্ছে যেন একটু একটু করে হ্যাবিচুয়েটেড হয়ে যাচ্ছি। এ শিফট, একটা পরিবর্তন আসছে, চেঞ্জেস হ্যাভ বিন সিন কম্পেয়ার টু প্রিভিয়াস প্র্যাকটিসেস। আগে যে প্র্যাকটিস ছিল স্বাভাবিকভাবে সেখান থেকে একটা শিফট হচ্ছে, একটা চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে, একটা বদল হচ্ছে। So teachers and students shall have to adopt with the new form of teaching and learning. ফলে এখানে যে টিচিংটা হচ্ছে বা লার্নিংটা হচ্ছে, টিচিং এবং লার্নিং হচ্ছে শিক্ষার্থীদের ক্ষেত্রে, সেখানে কিন্তু তাদের অ্যাডপ্ট করতে হচ্ছে যে এই একটা নতুন একটা পন্থা, নতুন ভাবে শিক্ষাটাকে আবার কিভাবে দেওয়া যায় অনলাইনের মাধ্যমে। আগে আমাদের কি ছিল, শিক্ষা ব্যাপারটা আই টু আই কন্ট্যাক্ট না হলে কিন্তু কখনো আমরা বুঝতে পারতাম না, আমরা ইভালুয়েট করতে পারতাম না যে কতটা আমি শেখাতে পারলাম আর কতটা ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিতে পারলো। বাট ইন দিস কেস আমাদের কিন্তু এই জায়গাটা থাকছে না। স্বাভাবিকভাবে আমাদের টিচিং মোডটাকে চেঞ্জ করতে হবে সো দ্যাট উই ক্যান রিচ টু দ্য স্টুডেন্টস। চেঞ্জিং এক্সিস্টিং ক্লাসরুম অ্যাসেসমেন্ট, পরিবর্তন হয়ে যাচ্ছে। আমরা খবরের কাগজে 2-3 দিন ধরে দেখছি যে পরীক্ষা ব্যবস্থার মধ্যে কিরকম ভাবে অ্যাসেসমেন্ট ক্রাইটেরিয়া গুলো আসছে, পরীক্ষা পদ্ধতিটা কিরকম হবে আমরা সবাই দেখছি। And teachers will be required to address and handle the they will be required to address and handle the retrain a class. অর্থাৎ একটা ক্লাসকে রিট্রেন করতে হবে, যেটা আগে আমরা ট্রেনিং করেছিলাম, যেভাবে প্রস্তুত করেছিলাম, তাদেরকে সেই ক্লাসে কিন্তু আবার দেখতে হবে, শেখাতে হবে উইথ নো স্টুডেন্টস ভিজিবল টু দেম। যে ছাত্রছাত্রীকে আমি চোখের সামনে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, তাদেরকে কিন্তু আমাকে অ্যাড্রেস করতে হচ্ছে, এবং সেই ক্লাসটাকে আবার কিন্তু নতুন ভাবে আমাকে শেখাতে হচ্ছে। আমি 40 জন ছাত্রছাত্রীকে দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, I am just speaking, and at this moment when I cannot see everyone, but I am just concentrating on focusing on my slides. So এইরকম ভাবে তাকে পড়াতে হবে। তো স্বাভাবিকভাবে যে আগে যেখানে স্টুডেন্টসরা অ্যাক্টিভ হতে পারতো, অর্থাৎ অ্যাক্টিভ স্টুডেন্ট সেন্টার বা স্টুডেন্ট সেন্টার যেটা হতে পারতো, এখানে টিচারকে বেশি অ্যাক্টিভ হতে হবে। অ্যাক্টিভ টিচার বেস্ট হয়ে গেল। টিল দ্য স্কুল কলেজ ইউনিভার্সিটি ফাংশনস অ্যাজ বিফোর, আগের মধ্যে যদি স্কুল কলেজ এবং ইউনিভার্সিটি না খুলে, তার মধ্যে যদি আগের মধ্যে যদি তারা ফাংশন করতে না পারে, যতদিন না করতে পারছে ততদিন কিন্তু আমাদের এই ব্যবস্থাটার মধ্যে থাকতে হচ্ছে বা টিচার্সকেও থাকতে হচ্ছে। রিমেম্বার, a new world of language and social order will evolve as predicted after COVID-19. স্বাভাবিকভাবে COVID-19 যখন চলে যাবে তখন কিন্তু একটা নতুন ভাষার পৃথিবী তৈরি হবে, যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, পৃথিবীর ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজটা হয়তো পাল্টে যাবে, নতুন একটা সোশ্যাল অর্ডার তৈরি হবে, নতুন আরো হয়তো এডুকেশনাল আউটকামস বা অবজেক্টিভস অফ এডুকেশনটা হয়তো একটু অন্যরকম ভাবে ভাবতে হবে। কারণ আমাদের যে শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থাটা গুরুকুল সিস্টেম থেকে এসেছিল, এবং যেটা ইভলভ হতে হতে আজকে যে জায়গায় এসে দাঁড়িয়েছি, পশ্চিম দুনিয়ার সব কিন্তু একটু পাল্টে অন্যরকম। সো বি প্রিপেয়ার টু ফেস দ্য নিউ চ্যালেঞ্জেস। ফলে কোভিড-19 এর পরে আবার যে নতুন চ্যালেঞ্জেস গুলো আসবে এবং অপরচুনিটিস গুলো তৈরি হবে, সেটার জন্য আমাদের প্রস্তুত থাকতেই হবে। বি হোপফুল টু অ্যারাইভ দ্য ভ্যাকসিন টু গেট রিড অফ দিস প্যান্ডামিক সিচুয়েশন। একটু আশাবাদী হতে হবে আমাদের, যে ভ্যাকসিন হয়তো খুব শীঘ্রই পেয়ে যাবো আমরা। Therefore, be brave and fit to face the challenges. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for delivering such an insightful, informative lecture. Thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to hear you. Thanks a lot. Now, without delay, I would like to request Professor Komolesh Sarkar sir, Department of Education, Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya, to conduct the next session. Over to you, Komolesh sir.
Thank you, Dibyendu. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Respected Principal Madam, Dr. Bhattacharya Dostidar, respected IQC Coordinator, Professor Mohabasu, respected Professor Ima Kanjilal, Convener of the Webinar Subcommittee, and all other faculty members of our college, and dear participants. A very good morning to all of you. Besides this, I would like to thank our first speaker, Dr. A.K. Bose sir, for his wonderful lecture and for guiding our learners how to fit physically, especially during the pandemic situation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We all know that teaching learning activity is incomplete without the inclusion of physical and mental fulfillment of learners. Learners need to be healthy and happy. Education or any such activity that involves an exchange of knowledge should cover a consistent focus on overall wellness. A clear distinction is often made between mind and body, but when considering mental health and physical health, the two should not be thought of as separate. Poor physical health can lead to an increased risk of developing mental health problems. Similarly, poor mental health can negatively impact on physical health, leading to an increased risk of some problems, some conditions. So the importance of physical wellness as well as the mental well-being of learners, especially in this pandemic situation, needs to be emphasized more than ever before. So in this session, our main focus will be on the mental health of learners. And in this session, our eminent speaker is Professor Dibyendu Bhattacharya sir. I welcome you, sir. Let me say a very few words about the speaker. Professor Bhattacharya is currently now the professor and head of the Department of Education and also the former director of Open and Distance Learning, University of Kolkata. Besides his unparalleled career as a teacher educator for more than 20 years, he served a number of academic bodies, learned societies, and administrative positions at both state and national level. He is an expert of various fields of education and psychology, with a special reference to physical and psychosocial behavioral analysis and teacher education in general. Now I will request Professor Dibyendu Bhattacharya sir to deliver his lecture on mental health and physical well-being during pandemic situation. Over to you, sir. DB sir.
Good morning, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you very much. So once again, good morning, everybody. And before starting my lecture, I convey my thanks to the principal ma'am, Dr. Vidisha Ghosh. I convey my thanks to Professor Moha Basu, IQAC coordinator, and Professor Rima Kanjilal, convener of the webinar, and Sri Kamalesh Pal, head of the department of this college, to organize such a meaningful webinar and giving me the opportunity to address such a well-organized digital platform. I convey my thanks to all the faculty members of the department, all the technical persons, and other organizers. And finally, I convey my thanks to the all participants for this digital session. Now I am starting to the today's webinar topic, that is mental and physical well-being of learners during pandemic situation. So I'm now requesting Kamalesh to present the PowerPoint.
Yes, sir. Is it visible?
No, till now not visible. Yes, now it is visible. Okay, thank you. Now in the first lecture, we are all trying to understand the physical part of the learners. If how the physical development of learners can prevent the pandemic situation. Now I am going to start my lecture, and especially in the mental health of the learners. So what is the position of the mental health of the learners, and what is the problems they are facing? What are the crises they have been facing in this kind of pandemic situation? So my lecture is basically concentrating on the part of learners' mental health. Now, first I am going to focus some points which the students are facing day to day on the regular basis in the pandemic situation. This is not the theoretical perspective, but which they are facing. This is at a realistic approach. What are they facing in the today's position in the pandemic situation? And the first point I consider that is the pandemic situation. In the pandemic situation, students are hampered. The students are having in the problem of attaining their goal, of attaining their target, attaining their mission, attaining their vision. If you see that every student, every person, every teacher, we always have some target. Target from promotion, target from upgradation, target from one stage to another stage. And therefore, students also they have some target, they have some goal, and they have some mission to do something, to upgrade something, to promote something, etc. But what is the problem in the pandemic situation? That is, they are very much hampered the target of the students. Suppose I have the target to giving joint entrance exam, and you see in the last 1 or 2 days before, 25% of the students in West Bengal they are giving exam, and the 75% of the students they are not able to their exam. So that is the problem. They cannot fulfill the target. They cannot fulfill the goal. And in a similar fashion, you see the next exam is just coming. And similar, so many national and international level exams, they are now waiting. In different college, different universities, they are not able to give their admission, give their different courses in a disciplinary way. And suppose in the universities, they are not able to getting started the PhD admission in the present session. So that is how the students' target, students' goal, students' achievement, students' mission, students' vision, that is somewhat blocked in the pandemic situation. So that is the first point I consider. This is the first problem they are facing. Second problem facing, that is the problem of transaction of curriculum. And you see, last semester the students, they do not have the opportunity, the face-to-face mode curriculum transaction. So all in the digital mode, all in the different form, either in video form or in the recording form or in the different forms of transaction that has been transformed to the students. So the transactional approach of curriculum, that is the second point the students are now facing. Suppose you see in case of some subjects are there, in case of education, I can say the research methodology. It is very much difficult in the digital mode to give all the informations in the statistical package, in the research methodological different forms in the digital mode. So it is not in the possible for the students to always have some knowledge, always have some understanding from the digital transaction. So that is another problem of students. That is the transactional approach of curriculum, transactional approach of the content, or the methodological approach of the content, which the students facing in the due course of their curriculum transaction. That is the second problem students are facing. The third problem learners facing is the evaluation procedure. Sometimes we are talking about the students will be evaluated on the basis of their internal marks. Sometimes we are talking about the students will be evaluated on the basis of assignments. Sometimes we are talking about that is a multiple choice question, that is how they are evaluated. So the different forms, different types, different mechanisms we are suggesting, but we do not know what will be the final. Till now we are waiting. So different forms of the evaluation procedure, we are now hesitating what will be the ultimate form of the examination procedure. Procedure is now, it is okay, but we are not sure that what will be the question style, how they will be given, what time will be given. So there are so many hurdles, so many problems we have till now in the case of evaluation procedure. So that is the third problem students are now facing in the pandemic situation. And the fourth problem that is I consider, that is a regular way of life. And you see in the pandemic situation, which is very much problematic, that we are lost our regular way of life. We lost our lifestyle. Suppose the students, they are very much happy in the classroom. Teachers are very much happy in the classroom, but we are not able to doing our lecture in the classroom. We are not doing our lecture in the face-to-face mode. So what we want to do, we do not. Suppose we want to do the market, we are not able to do that. Suppose students are able to go the college, schools, etc. They are not able to do that. So the regular way of life that has been hampered seriously in the pandemic situation. So you consider there are four kinds of problem I mentioned. That is the problems of target, problems of transaction, problems of evaluation, problems of way of life. So these are the four problems when meeting a point. Suppose you see the problems are different, but all problems are facing by the students. So all problems are when meeting a single point, that will create tension, that will create hamper the mental health, that will create the anxiety, that will create the fear, that will create the different forms of mental stress. So stressors are coming from the different mechanisms that has been adopted of our educational procedures, and that is started from target of education, aims of education, to ending to the way of life. So these are the different forms of our procedure which meeting a point of any student's life, creating tension, started from stress and ending to so many crises. And therefore, in these juncture, mental health is very much important. And therefore, if we do not able to keep our mental health good, it is very much challenging of the students. It is very much challenging of the students. It is very much challenging our education sector, how they are facing the challenge. But these are the different procedures which shake the students' life, which shake the students' attitude. So that is how our challenge is to keep mental health of the students in a better condition, in a better way. We should give some ways, we should suggesting some ways so that students can able to keep their health is very mental health in a good form, good shape, or they can able to they will have to have a good physical and mental and social condition at their own way of life. So that is the first point. That is the first point I consider, which is very much important for students' regular way of life. And my second condition point is that you see that different emerging forces, different emerging dimensions. That is students level of tension, level of anxiety, which is the enhancing forces which create tensions of the students' life, which disturbs the mental health. And we are talking about some another dimension, that is dimension of the conflict. And in the pandemic situation, during pandemic situation, we see we are all in a conflicting position. We are all in a conflicting position. What are those conflicting positions? Positions are like that we are now in a artificial position. All we are behaving, living, doing in an artificial situation. So that is disturbs our regularity. Suppose I am giving my lecture sitting in a room, but that is not we are habituated. We are going to a platform, we are going to a department, we are going to a hall, and we are giving lectures. But now we are sitting in the room, and we are delivering my lecture. So that is we are shaking hands with the artificial mode of lecture, artificial mode of life, etc., which is a conflicting between regularity versus artificiality. The regularity versus artificiality making a conflict among students. And the second point that is very much important, you see, that is the face-to-face mode versus digital mode. And I consider that it is very much difficult for students to have learning by only the digital platform, because sometimes you know that learning demands not only the content. Now, learning demands not only the information. Learning demands not only the solving the problem. Learning demands the attitude of the students. Learning demands the motivation of the students. Learning demands the personality pattern of the students. Learning demands interest, motivation, so many psychological aspects of the students, so many social aspects of the students, and it is not possible by sitting in the room, and by the digital mode. So there is a conflict. There is a conflict between face-to-face mode versus digital mode. Face-to-face mode versus digital mode. So there is a conflict among students. They are having learning face-to-face mode versus digital mode. So there is a conflict between the two method of learning. And the third conflict I consider, that is a very typical conflict, and you know that whether we're talking about physical, whether we are talking about the social or mental, whatever the category it may be, but you cannot avoid the social well-being. You cannot avoid the point social well-being. If you don't have food and shelter, don't have food and shelter, you cannot have mental health. You cannot have the physical health. So the social standpoint is very much important for explaining the physical well-being and the social well-being. And you see, in our country, and you see the GDP is gradually going down, and the socio-economic condition of the public is very much alarming position. Suppose you know that so many students I know from the Bankura, Purulia, Medinipur, Nadia, so many districts, they are now involved themselves in the different government projects, such as the 100-day project, etc. They are involving themselves for earning money besides their learning. So the socio-economic condition is deteriorating of the students in the last 6 or 7 years in the pandemic situation. So it is a very much alarming conflict between the socio-economic status, socio-economic condition versus reality. So reality demanding the learning, but the socio-economic status is retarding that situation. So there is a very typical conflict among students, that is the socio-economic status versus the real situation. And the fourth conflict I consider, that is a conflict between uncertainty versus upgradation. And you know that in the pandemic situation, we are all in a condition of uncertainty. We do not know in which time the college will open. We do not know in which time the university will open. I do not know in which time the institutions are open. We do not know what we have to do in future. So there is a uncertainty, form of uncertainty. Students are not sure when the exam will start. Students do not know how the pattern of questions will be there. They do not know when the B.Ed course will start. They do not know when the different postponed exams that will be open, or they do not have any opening. So they have the uncertainty. They have the uncertainty whether there will be the school service commission. They have the uncertainty whether they will have the college service commission, or so many public service commission, school service commission, railway, banking, etc. So students are now in a very, very uncertain position, and that make a very, very important conflict for their life. That is the uncertainty versus upgradation. Because as a student, as a teacher, as a person, we always try to upgrade ourselves. That is the general trend of human being. Because upgradation is life. Because that is retarded by the uncertainty. So there is another conflict by the uncertainty versus upgradation. So in the previous session, I am talking about the 4 problems which diverging in a single point, that making a conflict, which creates tension, that is hampering the mental health of learners. And here I am now talking about the 4 conflict points in the present pandemic situation, which ultimately disturbs the mental health among learners. So that is why mental health is very much important for students to shape their mental health, to keep their mental health well. It is very much important in present pandemic situation, because we don't have the control over the situation. We do not know when the pandemic will be end. We do not know how this kind of conflicts will be removed. We do not know when the problems will be removed. But yes, we are now suggesting, we now have some exercise, how our mentality, our mental situation, how our mind can be controlled. So that is why mental health of learners is very much important in this present pandemic situation. And you know that mind is what do you mean in mind? Mind is actually it is the summation of the unconscious part and the conscious part of human being. Consciousness is there, unconsciousness is there. Consciousness stands for development of our different senses, controlling of our different senses, controlling our mental activities, so and so on. So consciousness part is very much important. You know, by Tagore, he wrote that Amari Chetonar Range Panna Holo Shobuch. So how the consciousness make yourself a new pattern, make yourself a new change of life. So it is the conscious part of human being. That is how we can stand up. And similarly, you know that Ramakrishna Dev is talking very good, that Tumar Chaitanya ho. You have your consciousness, develop your consciousness. Naturally, so conscious part of human being is a part which we should promote, which we should upgrade, so that our mental situation, mental position can be controlled. And similarly, the unconscious part, that is the illogical part of our mind, that is the unconscious part of our mind, and both of which, that is the conscious part and the unconscious part, both of which we combine together, that is called mind. So for mental health, for good mental health, we have to control the conscious part of our mind and the unconscious part of our mind. And that is very rightly predicted by Patanjali, the Chitta Vritti Nirodho. Chitta Vritti Nirodho, we have to control our mentality. We have to controlling our mental activities. We have to stop our mental activities for controlling our mind. So that is why mental development is very much emergent in this pandemic situation. And to explain shortly, we can write here: mind is a conscious as well as unconscious part of human being, and that has been conscious, and that has been attributed the well-being of our mental health, right? So that is how the conscious part of our mind and the unconscious part of mind take a role the well-being of our mentality. And the second part of what I am trying to understand, that is the mental health. Mental health is actually summation of subjective well-being, cognitive well-being, and the axiological well-being, right? It is very much important for that. It is the summation of subjective well-being, cognitive well-being, and the axiological well-being. And then what do you mean by that? Because to make your mind a proper shape, to make your mind having a control position, it requires the quality of life, right? We have to control our life by making it having a quality, and how people have the experience of their own life and to shaping their own experience in a positive way. That is how quality of life is defined here as a subjective well-being. That is a life satisfaction. How we have our life satisfaction. That is how we have our happiness in our life. So that is how the subjective well-being is very much important, and that is also related to our personality pattern, our mental disposition, our attitude, our pattern of interest, motivation, etc. All of which we can call the subjective well-being. So subjective well-being stands for realization of our life. Subjective well-being stands for the conception, self-concept of our life. Subjective well-being stands for the self-satisfaction of our life. Subjective well-being stands for the self-confidence of our life. So that is how we can expand ourselves. And Swamiji rightly said that life stands for expansion. The expansion of life stands for subjective well-being, and that is why Tagore rightly uttered, that is, Hriday amar nache re ajike moider moto nache re. And that is how our shaping of our personality pattern, shaping of our mind, shaping of our confidence, shaping of our realization, that is how we can have our subjective well-being. So subjective well-being stands for to exploring yourself, or exploration of our mentality, our habitual actions, our potentiality. That is how we can explain subjective well-being. So subjective well-being is a very important part of the mental health. If your mental health is good, then we should have control of our own body, own physical, own social, own different mental approaches. That is subjective well-being stands for such kind of approach. And similarly, you see that mental health stands for cognitive well-being also. And you see that you don't have mental health unless you have the cognitive health. You don't have your physical health unless you have the cognitive health. So that is why we are talking about the knowledge is power. If you have the sufficient knowledge, you can fight against the COVID. Why you are under crisis, physical, mental, social, etc.? Because you don't have the cognitive knowledge. You don't have the knowledge, sufficient knowledge about COVID. And you see 6 to 7 or 8 months after, we have some knowledge about COVID. We have some possibility for vaccine. So we are somewhat upgraded our mind. We can able to face now. We are able to face now. We have the mentality. We are able to face now the challenge of the COVID because we have the knowledge. So the cognitive part of the mind, that is also very important for mental wealth, for mental health. And similarly, you see the aesthetic part, well-being also important for mentality. And you see that not always if we concentrating always about our reading, writing, and mathematics, but always concentrating in our education. That is why one kind of concentration sometimes bored ourselves. So that is why we have to shift ourselves from from one concentration to the another concentration. Sometimes the mental well-being to social well-being, mental well-being to physical well-being, they are interrelated. So aesthetic part of our mind, that is different performing arts, different musical activities, different performing arts, that is painting, etc. That is very important for aesthetic development of ours, and which helps our mental health. And different, you see that in the schools, colleges, and different educational institutions, we have the different co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities. So different ethics and aesthetics, that is also very much important for developing mental health. So mental health is very much associated with the axiological well-being. So we try to say it is like a three-dimensional structure. It is like the three-dimensional structure. From the first point, that is a subjective well-being. That is as a person, I am very well. I am very well. That is the first point. And second point, we should have some knowledge aspect. We should have some knowledge aspect. So knowledge is very much important. Third is the ethics and aesthetics. That is also important for explains our situation. So that is how we can explain the mental health in the introductory discussion. What is the perspective of our discussion? Now the next slide. So this is the explanation. The health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So in the first session of lecture, Professor Basu gave the detailed explanation of the physical well-being. You know that, and in detail we have the scope to know how the well-being of the learners is possible to the physical development. And you see, in our Indian perspective also, the physical development is given very important. Suppose in a Patanjali Yoga, the different forms of meditation, different forms of pranayama, different forms of physical postures, different forms of asanas are there for controlling human beings. So therefore, different forms of physical habits, physical postures, physical exercise, physical well-being, which can control our mentality, right? So health is a summation of physical development, mental development, and also lastly I am telling that it is sum total of the physical, mental, and social. Because unless you have the social development, it is very much difficult for us the mental development. So according to World Health Organization, it is a sum total of physical, mental, and the social development for having a good mental health. And now I am trying to explain in the next slide. In the next slide, I am trying to explain the basic functions. Basic functions of mind. You see, I am explaining here that there are three functions of mind. One is the manifestation, second is the activity, and third is the retardation. So what do you mean by the manifestation? Manifestation is nothing but the exploration of yourself. That is, whether do you have your self-realization? That is how you can manifest yourself. Whether do you have your self-concept? That is how do you manifest yourself. Do you have your self-esteem? That is how do you manifest yourself. Do you have the self-potentiality? That is how do you manifest yourself. And therefore, Swami Vivekananda rightly told that education is the manifestation. Education is the manifestation. So manifestation is nothing but exploration of any person, exploration of human being, exploration of any body to a particular dimension. Vivekananda rightly said that is, it is towards the perfection. It is towards the perfection. We do not know whether we do have the perfection or do not have, but it is sure. It is sure. Manifestation is the point through which we can explore ourselves. And that is the first point, the basic functions of mind. And in the second point, you can consider the activity. And you know that it is very much shocking news that the 1st September, our former president has been passed away. But in ABP Anandu, I saw that one of his interview, former President Mukhopadhyay told that he has been asked a question that you have so many tasks, you have so many pressure, how will you control? And he answered a very, very important conception. That is, he told that I love activity. And that is a very fantastic answer by Mukhopadhyay, that I love activity. So that is how they can controlling their mind. And if we love the different forms of activity, with different forms of multidimensional activity, we can involve ourselves in different forms of activity. Then you see that we have the good mentality. Then we have the good mental health. So for having good mental health, we should involve ourselves in different forms of activity, and it is certainly related to different physical, mental, and social activities. And if it is possible to involve ourselves in different activities, then you see that we have the very much good mental health. And the third point is the retardation. Retardation is that is the nature of mind. Always we have some negative approach in our mind. Suppose we are thinking about that we do good, very good to involve ourselves in a very good activity. And besides all this, you see, we have some retarding activity. We have some negative attitude. We have some negative way of thinking. We have some negative thought in each and every. That is how we retard it. That is how we have the stress in our mind. So that's retardation we have to control. Control by good thinking, by right thinking, by right understanding, by right application, etc. to remove the retardation. So one thing we have to manifestation, we have to activity, involvement of activity in different perspectives, and simultaneously we have to control over our retardation of mind. So that is the basic functions of mind. So to control over those functions, so which is our suggestion is to exploring yourself in our education system. And the second, we should involve ourselves in different form of activity so that we have a good mental health. That is the basic functions of our mind. And now I am coming to the next slide. Next slide. And you see that is already we are discussing the points. That is the component of mental health. And you see that sometimes we suppose that mind is mind. That is not that. Mind and mental development is related to other aspects, and the points are taken from the philosophical perspective. And you see that in our philosophical perspective, there are three kinds of attributes. There are concentrating 3 points, 3 forms of attributes, and that is the Sattva, Raja, and Tamo. And when we are talking about the Sattva qualities, and in our Indian schools of philosophy, they are talking about that mind is not any isolated platform. Mind is not any isolated unit. The mind is very much related to our sense organs and working organs. And that is why mental health is the sum total of mind and plus our working organs and plus our sense organs. So for a good mental health, what we have to do? We have to able to our working organs and sense organs. Sense organs means we have to use our perception. We have to use our senses. We have to use our different forms of reality in our education system. Suppose you see in our education system there is only informations are there, but we are lacking about application of our senses. So whether we are able to apply our sense for exploring our surrounding realities, and you see our education system is not the position to explore the reality or realistic situation. It is based on information. So for development of your mind, we should design our curriculum by the development of senses. And that is why Rishi Aurobindo rightly told that what do you mean by education? The education stands for development of senses. If in Montessori system, in kindergarten system, in different primary and pre-primary system, even in higher education, you see application of senses and sense organs are very much important, right? So development of mind is related or development of senses and development of working organs. So we have to realize the development mind is not possible if we do not have any activity, if we do not have any application of our senses. So when mind is amalgamated, mind is integrated, with our working organs and sense organs, and that is how we can develop ourselves. And that is why Gandhiji rightly told that the education is the application of 3H. That is the head, hand, and heart. It is the part of our cognitive approach. Hand is our skill-based approach, and heart is our effective domain. So if we combine all these, that is how we can able to doing our good mental health, we can able to doing our education system better. So mind is not having any isolated component. It is integrated or amalgamated with our sense organs and working organs. And if we do well our working organs and sense organs, that is how we can able to develop our mental health, mental strength, etc. So components of mental health, through components of mental health, we can have our good mental situation or mental disposition. Right. Now the key concepts of mental health in the next slide. Key concepts of mental health, you see that mental health is about enhancing competencies of individuals and communities and enabling them to achieve their self-determined goals. And similarly, mental health should be a concern for all of us rather than only the persons who suffer from a mental disorder. So mental health demands the competencies. And in our previous discussion, what we are trying to say, to try to develop yourself. That is the competency. Develop your competency. If we have competent, we have good mental health. And how have you developed your competencies? By developing your activities, by developing your cognitive abilities, by developing your social abilities, by developing your physical abilities, by developing your mental abilities. So that is how mental health through competencies we can have some control, right? So that is a key concept of mental health. And in the next slide we are just talking about, that is very much important. On the basis of previous discussion, we can decide that the mental health, they have three perspectives. One perspective is the knowledge base of mental health, second is the behavioral base of mental health, and third one is the aesthetic base of mental health. Suppose you see, sometimes we have very much information, we have very much knowledge about a particular thing, but besides we don't have good mental health. So only knowledge is not the sufficient condition of mental health. So knowledge base, behavioral base, and aesthetic base, if we combine together, that is how we can have good mental health. But yes, knowledge base is very much important for our mentality. But what is the knowledge base of our mentality? That is, the knowledge base stands for development of our potentiality. So whether we have our potentiality, whether we have our sufficient knowledge towards a particular subject. So knowledge base is a very much important, very mental health. Suppose you see, sometimes we have some mental sickness of any particular matter. In which direction? In the direction which we have our less knowledge, right? Suppose the pilot, they have very much knowledge about aeroplane, or yes, you don't have any problem about the flight, about the flying the aeroplane. But we have some here because we don't know about what about that perspective. So knowledge is very much important. And similarly, suppose you see, in case of COVID, we have always waiting for Oxford, we're waiting for Russia, we're waiting for America, because we don't have sufficient knowledge about COVID. Presently, we are having some preparation. But in the previous 2 or 3 months before, we have only the Oxford University. They are giving the direction of what we have to do. So different forms of knowledge. Suppose Italy discovered a very important dimension. Italy showed that the different forms of pain of our chest, it is because of some problems of some blood clotting. So that is how they are inventing those types of symptoms by Italy, which can able to keep our patient well in COVID condition. That is how Italy invented. That is how Oxford invented. That is how Israel invented. That is how America giving some points, but what our points were giving in our Asian perspective. Suppose you see, we don't have giving very minimum conditions, minimum information in the inventory situation, by inventing ours, by a case study of ours, to give some important information regarding COVID-19, because we don't have sufficient knowledge about that. So for giving good mental health, knowledge is very much important. Knowledge in the creative form, knowledge not in the informative form. If you see, we have so many doctors, they have the knowledge, but knowledge not in the creative form. We have the teachers, they have the knowledge, but not in the creative form. We have the professors who have the knowledge, but not in the creative form. So that is why India has having the middle class of nature, middle class of economy, middle class of knowledge, middle class of teachers, middle class of medical practitioners, middle class of engineer, etc. Because they don't have knowledge. So for having good mental health, knowledge base is very much important. And second one is the behavioral base. That is behavioral base. I already discussed. Behavioral base stands for when mind is integrated with our working condition, mind is integrated with our activities, mind are integrated with our sense organs. So that is how the behavior of ourselves, which can select our mental position. So behavioral base of mental health, that is the second point, and third one is the aesthetic base. That is already we pointed out that the aesthetical base of our mental health, that is the enlightenment of ourselves. That is what we do and we do not. What is the pros and cons of any particular subject. So that is why I can control ourselves. I can control myself to a particular situation. So aesthetic base of mental health is also very important. So try to understand participants and source person and myself also. For having mental health, we should have integrated our knowledge domain to our behavioral base and with our aesthetic part of human being. And aesthetic part of the mental base, and you see Tagore applying in the Shantiniketan. Knowledge part of the domain, you see that is applying throughout the whole world. And similarly in the behavioral base of mental health, you see we are always applying in our regular way of life. So if we integrated all this, so mind is not a single perspective. Mind has a three-dimensional perspective, where knowledge is integrated or concentrated with our behavior and our performing different arts or the enlightenment of ourselves in a particular situation. So that is the mental health based on knowledge, behavior, and the aesthetic. And the next part, we are just giving the highlighted points. The knowledge base stands for enlightenment of inner structure of human mind. That is called the knowledge base. And in the second part, you see that is the behavioral base. You see that is that adjustment with externality. In our behavior, actually, we are trying to adjust with our externality, adjust with our surroundings, etc. That is the behavioral base. And is the third point, that is the aesthetic base. It is muchly related to our performing arts, our different curricular activities, extracurricular activities, different activities based on our organization, and different good habits, etc. That is how aesthetic base of mind. So to explain our mental structure, it is based on knowledge, it is based on knowledge, it is based on our behavior, it is based on our aesthetics. So this is the way of our presentation. That is how we can control our mind. We can control our mind through knowledge. We can control our mind through our activity or behavior. We can control our mind through the different forms of ethics and aesthetics. That is how we can control our mind. Now I am talking about some points very shortly. The different process of education, that is different, how the different process of pedagogy can control our mind. Control our mind. So mind, you see, mind has always the three functions. That is, one, mind is always trying to multiple of any action. Suppose you love any particular book, you see, you always trying to study that book, that cinema, that music. So multiplication is one of the structure of our mind, and we are talking here mind has basically three functions. One is the multiplication, point number two is the substitution, and third one is the shifting. So mind has three functions. Mind always trying to multiply something, mind always to substitute something, mind always shifting something. So we have the 3 points here. So the next slide, point of multiplication, just back to Kamalesh, multiplication, back to the slide multiplication, and that is okay. That is okay. Multiplication is the side which we focused here. Multiplication is a process of repeating any mental action. It provides knowledge base of mental health. But then from the knowledge base of mental health, we are giving the multiplication. So multiplication is the process of repeating any mental action. If you see in case of anxiety, we are thinking, a negative thinking which can create the anxiety. And in a similar way, when we memorize something, the multiplicity is the reason, because we multiply anything. So it is very much important multiplication in a proper way so that we can have the knowledge. So multiplication is the one process of our mind. And second one you see, that is the substitution. In the substitution, in the next slide, Kamalesh, substitution is the process when you have some different options. If we want to control our mind, we have some different options. Suppose we are not liking any action, so we can shift, we can substitute another action. If we not liking that action, we can have another action. So in case of substitution, what is happening? We have the different options of the students, we have the different options of the learners, so that we can have the choice to select. We can have the option to substitute our thinking from one position to the another position. And in the similar fashion, I'm talking about in a similar fashion, in case of our attitude, in case of our mentality, we are always multiplying of any concept, and in a similar way, we should have the ability to substitute. If we have the ability to substitute, we have the less anxiety. If we have the ability to substitute our thinking, we have the less amount of stress, because stress and anxiety based on multiplication also. And if we have the ability to substitute or have the options, so we have the less mental stress. And similarly, we have the next point in shifting. Next point in a shifting, then you see the shifting is a mental process relating to skill based on creative performance of our mental action. It provides the aesthetic base of mental hygiene. In shifting, what is happening? In shifting, actually, we are shifting the domain. In case of substitution, we are in the multiplication, we have the different multiplying any process, and in the same way we can shifting our process. But in case of shifting, suppose we are shifting from mental to physical, mental to social, from one dimension to another dimension, one option to another option. But in case of difference of substitution, shifting, substitution is based on in one dimension, and shifting is based on the different dimension. Suppose when we are talking about the mental health, then it is possible to multiplication and substitution. But if we are talking about mental to social, mental to physical, that is, we can shift our interest, shift our motivation, shift our mental status. So shifting is the mental process relating to the skill based on creative performance of our mental action. It is basically based on aesthetic base of our mental hygiene. So that is how we can balance our well-being. That is the mental health. If we balance the multiplication, substitution, and shifting, that is, one stands for knowledge base, one stands for behavioral base, and one stands for aesthetic base. See, if we have the balance among our knowledge, among our behavioral base, among our aesthetic base, that is how we can have our good state of well-being. And so you see that out of this discussion, we can say, they do not detail our discussion because the time is already over. So our future education is presently based on the digital platform, and I consider in future we have the opportunity the digital mode of action, and both the blending mode, that is the traditional mode, and the digital mode can have our own future. So that is how the innovative pedagogy based on multiplication, substitution, and shifting, that is possible in our education system, so that the students can have their good mental health. I am requesting Kamalesh, just show the slide only. Just I am giving the direction. The next slide, please. And you see that there are we are applying the concept of multiplication, substitution, shifting based on knowledge base, based on behavioral base, and based on aesthetic base. That is how perceptual pedagogy is possible. Next slide. Next. And that is just please wait something. That is why the perceptual pedagogy, that is very important. That is why the perceptual pedagogy is very much important for having the good mental health. And if you see in a classroom situation, if you see in the face-to-face mode, or if you see in case of digital mode, you see stimulus is one, but responses are many. Suppose you are the teacher, you are giving stimulus, but the students are so many, so responses are so many. So that is the question of multiplication is there. That is how one stimulus is getting modified. That is the in case of diversification. So we are talking about three processes we should include in our pedagogy. That one is multiplication, one is substitution, and one is shifting. Combination. Next slide, please. That is you see that there are 3 points are there for multiplication, substitution, and shifting. Why we are talking about? Because some reasons our mental health is sometimes in different reasons mental health is somewhat hampered. And if we are multiple our activities, multifaceted activities, multitask activities, it is possible to control them. If we have the options, it is possible to control them. If we have the options of different dimensions and creative activities, we have the options of controlling their mentality. Next slide. That is the example of multiplication. I am not explaining this, but this is a multiplication starting from a particular point and ending to diversify itself in a multiplied form. That is, point 1 is in the center of the circle, and it is gradually magnified or diversified, right? And that is the second slide. Next slide. That is a substitution of learning. Here, substitution refers to substitute one stimulus to another. It is a spontaneous process. Naturally, through substitution, diversification is rather easy to execute. As for example, a student has interested in science subject could be diversified social studies and language through substitution. Next. And in the similar, shifting is important and applicable when substitution is rather difficult. Okay. Next slide. Next. And then what is happening, you see that in case of shifting, that is we consider that some students in the academic position and some students are having their motivation and interest in the non-academic position. Yes, both are very important. Suppose in the previous session, sir told that we require to sometimes a relaxed situation, relaxed position. We should hear music. We should do some physical exercise. That is, sometimes some academic domain should be shifted to the non-academic domain, shifting our learning, shifting our interest, shifting our motivation for having a good mental health. Next. So diversification is to be allowed on the basis of students' nature and standard, and shifting is possible by or on the basis of some desirable condition by applying or giving options from one dimension to the another dimension. Okay, next slide. So that is the final slide what I am talking about. It is possible to control our mind through perceptual pedagogy. Perceptual pedagogy stands for, that is, through senses. What we see, what we hear, what is our surroundings. If it is possible to apply in our education system by applying the process of multiplication, substitution, and shifting, it is possible to control the pedagogy. It is possible to control, to overcome our different barriers or conflicting situation, and that is possible to control our mind on the basis of perceptual pedagogy. And know everybody that presently we are now in a situation of stress. We are now presently in a situation of crisis. We are having different barriers, and to overcome those, we have to follow good mental health by strengthening our knowledge, by engage ourselves in different activities, and by involving ourselves in different aesthetic activities and aesthetic things. And that is how we can control over our mind, and that is a controlling mechanism of our mental health. And once again, I thank you everybody and getting our lecture end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your informative, stimulative, and valuable speech. You have discussed on so many aspects of mental health and as well as the pedagogical aspects also. We are really motivated by your lecture. We are very pleased and happy to have you within us today in this webinar. I think our learners will also be benefited, at least to some extent. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you. Participants are requested, if they have any question, please write it in the chat box with your name, designation, and name of your institution, and also mention the name of the speaker to whom it is addressed. Now I request Professor Rima Kanjilal, convener of the webinar subcommittee and the senior faculty member of the Department of Education, to conduct the interactive session. Over to you, Rima madam.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh. First of all, I would like to thank our principal madam, Dr. Vidisha Bose and our IQAC coordinator madam, Professor Moha Basu, for giving me this opportunity to conduct today's interactive session. I thank both the resource persons, Dr. Asim and Dr. Dibyendu Bhattacharya, for their enlightening lecture. Thank you so much for giving us such a wonderful lecture on the mental and physical well-being of learners during the pandemic situation. Now, we have 2-3 questions, but I think they are from for Dr. Bhattacharya. So the first question is from education school. COVID-19 এর কেমন প্রভাব পড়তে পারে মানসিক স্বাস্থ্যের উপর? I think this is for Dr. Bhattacharya. Sir, Dibyendu sir.
Just repeat the question.
Sir, it is COVID-19 এর কেমন প্রভাব পড়তে পারে মানসিক স্বাস্থ্যের উপর? From education school.
ব্যাপার হলো যে প্রভাবটা তো ভীষণ রকমের প্রভাব, যেটা আমি বললাম না, চারটে কনফ্লিক্ট কাজ করছে এখানে। চারটে কনফ্লিক্ট কাজ করছে, যে চারটে কনফ্লিক্টের মধ্যে প্রথমটা হচ্ছে যে রেগুলার, যেটা সব থেকে ভয়ঙ্কর বলে মনে হচ্ছে, যে উই আর লুজিং আওয়ার রেগুলারিটি। এইটা যে সব থেকে বড় পয়েন্ট, যে আমি আমার প্রফেশনে যেতে চাইছি, যেতে পারছি না। আমি আমার ক্লাসে যেতে চাইছি, যেতে পারছি না। আমি বাড়ি থেকে মার্কেটে যেতে চাইছি, যেতে পারছি না। স্টুডেন্টরা তাদের ক্লাসে যেতে চাইছে, যেতে পারছি না। অর্থাৎ মাইন্ডটা তো সামেশন অফ অল অ্যাক্টিভিটিস। আমি কোনো অ্যাক্টিভিটি আমার মতো করতে পারছি না। সো আই এম আন্ডার হেসিটেশন, আই এম আন্ডার সাম ক্রাইসিস, আই এম আন্ডার সাম স্ট্রেস। এগুলো আমাকে কিন্তু সামাজিকভাবে চাপের মধ্যে ফেলে দিচ্ছে, আমার মেন্টাল স্ট্রেসটাকে বাড়িয়ে দিচ্ছে। এবং আমি সর্বোপরি আরেকটি কথা বলেছি, যে এই যে স্ট্রেস, এটা যেমন মেন্টাল, এটা সেরকম সোশ্যালও বটে। এবার দেখা যাচ্ছে আমার যে পেরেন্টসরা মনে করে যাক আনঅর্গানাইজ সেক্টরে কাজ করে। ভারতবর্ষে বেশিরভাগ মানুষ আনঅর্গানাইজ সেক্টরে কাজ করে। ভারতবর্ষের 135 কোটি 38 কোটি মানুষের মধ্যে 10 থেকে 12 কোটি লোক অর্গানাইজ সেক্টরে কাজ করে, মাত্র 10 to 12 crores, বাকি সবাই আনঅর্গানাইজ সেক্টর। এই টোটাল আনঅর্গানাইজ সেক্টর মানে হচ্ছে সোশিও ইকোনমিক্যালি দে আর আন্ডার ক্রাইসিস। এবার আমার বাড়িতে যদি ঠিকমতো সোশ্যাল কন্ডিশন, ইকোনমিক কন্ডিশন যদি ঠিক না থাকে, আমার বাড়িতে যদি চাল ডাল তেল নুন যদি ঠিক না থাকে, আমার বাড়িতে যদি রোজকার যে খরচের টাকা পয়সা যদি না থাকে, তাহলে আমরা চলবোটা কি করে আর কি। আমরা দেখেছি ট্রেন বন্ধ, লক্ষ লক্ষ মানুষ সেখানে হকারি করে তাদের জীবন নির্বাহ করে, অটো থেকে আরম্ভ করে যে পরিবহন, সেই পরিবহন বন্ধ, গোটা সিস্টেমটাই কোল্যাপসড। এবং তার সব থেকে বড় ভয়ঙ্কর পরিণতি হচ্ছে গোটা পৃথিবীর সোশিও ইকোনমিক স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটাকে সেটা প্রায় শেষ করে দিয়েছে। এবং যার একটা বড় পরিণতি হচ্ছে -24 GDP ইন আওয়ার কান্ট্রি। এবং তার ফলে এইটা কিন্তু আমার মনে হচ্ছে বিসাইডস মেন্টাল হেলথ, এটা কিন্তু আমার মানসিক যে চাপটা সেটাকে কিন্তু বহুগুণ বৃদ্ধি করেছে এই প্যান্ডেমিক সিচুয়েশনে। একে তো আমি পড়াশোনা করতে পারছি না, আমি পরীক্ষা দিতে পারছি না, আমি জয়েন দিতে পারছি না, আমি নেট দিতে পারছি না, আমি পিএইচডি তে ভর্তি হতে পারছি না, আমি এমফিল এ ভর্তি হতে, আমি কোনো কিছুই করতে পারছি না। সো এটা পিকিউলিয়ার সিচুয়েশনে আমি বলবো এটা আর কি, যেটা পিকিউলিয়ার সিচুয়েশনে আমরা বসবাস করছি। এবং সেই বসবাসটা যত লো গ্রেড স্টুডেন্ট, তার মেন্টাল স্ট্রেস তত বেশি। কারণ যে আমি বললাম না, একটা যে সাবস্টিটিউশন শিফটিং, এই যে ধরুন আপনি একটু বেশি বয়সের স্টুডেন্ট, অর্থাৎ কলেজের স্টুডেন্ট, অথবা মনে করুন আপনি বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের স্টুডেন্ট, দেখবেন আপনি একটু সাবস্টিটিউট করতে পারছেন, আপনি একটু শিফটিং করতে পারছেন, আপনি একটু গল্প করতে পারছেন। যত কম বয়সের ছেলে মেয়ে, দে আর আন্ডার প্রেশার, because they don't have the ability to substitute, they don't have the ability to shift. সুতরাং আমরা বলবো যে আমরা মানে এটা মনে করি যে ক্রমশ আমরা একটু ভালো পজিশনের দিকে যাচ্ছি, এবং আমরা এটা প্রার্থনা করছি যে যত তাড়াতাড়ি সম্ভব প্যান্ডেমিক সিচুয়েশন একটা কৃত্রিম একটা জায়গাতে যদি আমি নিজেকে আবদ্ধ রাখি, দেখবেন সেটা কখনো প্রোডাক্টিভ হতে পারে না। এবার এই জন্য যে যেমন আমরা অভয়ারণ্যতে আমরা কি বলছি যে আমরা সমস্ত বন্যপ্রাণীদের ছেড়ে দেওয়ার কথা বলেছি, বিকজ দ্যাট ইজ দ্য ন্যাচারাল পজিশন আর কি। কিন্তু আমরা কিন্তু অনেকটা সেরকম এখন রিজার্ভ পজিশনে চলে এসেছি। রিজার্ভ পজিশনে মানে যখন আমাদের রেগুলার ওয়ে অফ লাইফ ভীষণ রকম ভাবে হ্যাম্পার্ড, মানে ইট ক্রিয়েটস টেনশন, ইট ক্রিয়েটস ফিয়ার, ইট ক্রিয়েটস প্যানিক অ্যাটাক, ইট ক্রিয়েটস সো মেনি থিংস, এবং যেটা লিডস টু আওয়ার মেন্টাল স্ট্রেস, লিডস টু সো মেনি প্রবলেমস অফ আওয়ার কান্ট্রি, সো মেনি প্রবলেমস বেসড অন আওয়ার লার্নার্স। সুতরাং এই সিচুয়েশনে কিন্তু আমরা আছি, অ্যান্ড উই হ্যাভ টু ফাইট এগেইনস্ট দেম। কেউ আমরা এডুকেশন সেক্টরে থেকে করছি, কেউ আমরা কর্মক্ষেত্রে থেকে করছি। এবার বিভিন্ন ভাবে সেই প্রবলেম আছে, আমরা আশা করছি যে সেই প্রবলেম হয়তো আস্তে আস্তে কেটে যাবে। কিন্তু যেটা বলেছি সেটা হচ্ছে, ঘটনা হচ্ছে এইটা যে বিভিন্ন রকম কাজের মধ্য দিয়ে, বিভিন্ন রকম পরিকল্পনার মধ্য দিয়ে যদি আমরা নিজেদের নিয়োজিত রাখি, তাহলে দেখা যাবে এই প্রবলেমটা হয়তো আমরা আস্তে আস্তে কাটিয়ে উঠতে পারছি।
Thank you so much, sir. I'll take one more question as we are running short of time. It is from Debdulal Sarkar. His question is, pandemic পরিস্থিতিতে শিক্ষার্থীরা কিভাবে এগোবে? প্যান্ডেমিক পরিস্থিতিতে শিক্ষার্থীরা কিভাবে এগোবে?
এখন ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যে মানে এগোনো দেখুন, এগোবে তো বটেই। এখন সেক্ষেত্রে আমি কিন্তু আমার বক্তৃতার প্রথমেই এই 4টি পয়েন্ট বলেছিলাম যে স্টুডেন্টস আর আন্ডার ক্রাইসিস অন দ্য প্রসেস অফ টার্গেট। আপনি টার্গেটে যেতে পারছেন না। মনে করুন এবছর যারা হায়ার সেকেন্ডারি পাস করেছে আর কি, হায়ার সেকেন্ডারি পাস করে তারা জয়েন্ট এন্ট্রান্সে যেতে পারছে না। 2 নম্বর হচ্ছে, ধরুন যারা অনার্স মানে দিতে পারিনি এখনো পর্যন্ত আর কি, আপনারা জানেন প্রেসিডেন্সি কলেজে, যেমন আপনারা দেখবেন প্রেসিডেন্সি কলেজে ওরা কিন্তু রেজাল্ট বার করে দিয়েছে, যাদবপুর দিয়েছে, অনেকে দিয়েছে কেন? কারণ এরা পাস না করলে ওরা বিদেশে অনেকে ভর্তি হয়ে গেছে অলরেডি, অনেকে অ্যাডমিটেড টু দ্য ফরেন ইউনিভার্সিটি, কারণ ওদের সেশনের সাথে না হলে সেশন মিলছে না আর কি, না হলে আর কি। তার ফলে এগোনোর পক্ষে প্রচুর অন্তরায় আছে, এবং সেই অন্তরায়গুলোকে আমরা এইভাবে ব্যাখ্যা করেছি: প্রবলেমস অফ টার্গেট, প্রবলেমস অফ কারিকুলাম, প্রবলেমস অফ ইভ্যালুয়েশন, প্রবলেমস অফ রিয়ালিটি, এইভাবে আমরা ব্যাখ্যা করেছি। এই প্রবলেমস গুলো আছে, কিন্তু জীবন তো কখনো থেমে থাকে না, জীবনটা এগিয়ে যায় আর কি। এবং এই প্রতিকূলতার মধ্যে দিয়ে আস্তে আস্তে আনলক 4 আমরা পৌঁছেছি। আনলক 4 বলতে ক্রমশ পৃথিবী একটা নর্মাল পজিশনে যাবার চেষ্টা করছে। পৃথিবীর বহু বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় ইতিমধ্যেই তাদের, আমাদের দেশে যে সমস্ত ছেলেমেয়েরা পড়াশোনা করছে, বিদেশে যে সমস্ত ছেলেমেয়েরা পড়াশোনা করছে, একই ডিজিটাল মধ্যে তাদের ক্লাস আরম্ভ করেছে। অস্ট্রেলিয়া আরম্ভ করেছে, গ্রেট ব্রিটেন আরম্ভ করেছে, ইউএসএ আরম্ভ করেছে, অনেকে আবার বাতিলও করেছে আর কি। তার ফলে কিন্তু একটা আনলক পর্যায়ে কিন্তু গোটা পৃথিবী আস্তে আস্তে স্বাভাবিক পর্যায়ে আসার চেষ্টা করছে, এবং আশা করা যায় যে আগামী 3 মাস বা 4 মাসের পরে আর কি ভ্যাকসিন আবিষ্কারের পর, মানে মার্কেটে আসার পর থেকে আমরা অনেকটা স্বাভাবিক হবো আর কি। ঠিক আছে, তার মধ্যে এই লড়াইটা আমাদের চলবে আর কি। আনলক পর্যায়ে আমরা 4th ফেজে এসেছি, আস্তে আস্তে এই স্বাভাবিকতা এলে আমার মনে হয় ব্যাপারটা অনেকটা গেটিং নর্মালাইজড।
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have come to the end of the interactive session. Now I would request our faculty member, Department of Education, Professor Dolly Shane, to give the valedictory address. Thank you so much. Over to Dolly.
Thank you, madam. Good afternoon. I will now take some time to offer heartfelt gratitude to our research persons, Dr. Asim Kumar Bose and Dr. Dibyendu, enlightened us about physical fitness and wellness of learners during pandemic situation and mental health and well-being during pandemic situation through the panel discussion. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our respected principal madam, Dr. Bidisha Ghosh Dosidar, for her help and guidance. I wish to thank our IQC coordinator, Professor Mahila Basu madam, for helping and guiding us through this state level webinar organized by our institution. I wish to extend my gratitude to the technical team of our college, whose technological expertise helped us to successfully organize this webinar. I thank all the participants for their cooperation and patience. Finally, I would like to thank the teaching and non-teaching staff of our college for their support and contribution in holding this event. Congratulations and thank you all very much. Now, I will request Sri Arup Sarkar, Faculty of Physical Education Department, to carry on the informal ending of the webinar. Please, Arup Sarkar.
Thank you, Dolly Shane madam. Thank you all. Now we have come to the end of the webinar. I announce the termination of today's program now here. Before leaving, the webinar participants are requested to please fill up the feedback form, which is given in the chat box for several times. Otherwise, it is to the give you or issue any certificate because it is automatic generated. Now further request will be entertained. So please fill up the feedback form and get your certificate. সবাইকে অনুরোধ করছি চ্যাট বক্সে আমাদের ফিডব্যাক লিংক দেওয়া হয়েছে, সবাই ফিডব্যাক ফর্ম পূরণ করবেন। ফিডব্যাক ফর্ম পূরণ না করলে আমরা আমাদের পক্ষে ই সার্টিফিকেট দেওয়া সম্ভব নয়। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Respected sir, hello.
হ্যাঁ হ্যালো।
Sir, I'm calling for Dibyendu calling for. Due to network problem, I am not able to collect the. I am not showing the feedback link or name. Please share the feedback link in my mail. Hello.
Mahila Basu, please answer this question.
Due
Over to Mahila Basu. Mahila Basu, please.
Due to network problem, I'm not able to take the feedback link. I am in not in receive that link.
Hello, either Rima or Mahua, please answer his question.
Yes,
Rima, please answer him. Yes.
Yes, sir. What is your problem? You will. You want the. You can't get the feedback link. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.